And then you just have to, this is going to pop up eventually. Let's do that.
Paste.
And then you hold it down like this. Morning, everyone. We're going to be getting started with our virtual keeper chat in just a minute. We're letting everybody join us, so hopefully our technology works for us today. We're excited that you're all with us on this. Well, if you're joining us from the New Bedford, Massachusetts area, you know it's kind of a gloomy, rainy day, but hopefully we have a lot of friends from all over and you're having better weather. So we will be joined by a keeper in just a minute. I want to let people join with us before we get started, though. We will start at 11. But if you've visited Buttonwood Park Zoo, you probably know what building I'm in and may have some guesses as to who you're going to meet today. Feel free to share in the comments if you have some guesses as to who we may meet during our virtual keeper chat today. Oh, I see a TT monkey up there. I don't know if you all can see him up at the top. How's our technology today? Are we having a clearer image? Oh, we have a guess that maybe we're going to meet Sandy the sloth. That's a great guess. Oh, maybe Rico. Maybe. Melody, you know that during these times when we're closed to the public, Rico is missing his adoring fans. Thanks, Sarah. I'm glad it's working for everybody. That's a relief. All right. Oh, from Arizona. Hey, Diego. You know where I am. I'm glad to be joining you virtually today. Hope you're enjoying your day. I'm sure it is sunnier in Arizona. Is it 11 o'clock?
It is 10:59.
Unfortunately, Joey, the keeper, is not here today, so I'm sorry to disappoint some excited nieces, it sounds like. Ooh, clownfish. We could definitely do clownfish one day. All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. Oh, somebody requested to see the tortoise, so we'll just quickly say hi to the yellow-footed tortoise. So we are coming to you live with our virtual keeper chat from the Buttonwood Park Zoo in New Bedford, Massachusetts. This is the spot where our friend that we're going to meet today would normally be joining you if you are visiting us. He loves his adoring fans. So anyone who guessed Rico was right. He is joined, most importantly, by our keeper, Jess, who is going to tell you a little bit about him. And then we can always take questions too. So be sure to write down any questions you may have in the comments. I'll try and remember them, or we can wait until after she's told us a little bit. So Jess, why don't you introduce us to Rico?
So hi guys, so this is Rico. He is our green Aracari. He lives with us in our Bolivia habitat in the Rainforest building. So a lot of you frequent visitors to the zoo have probably seen him, as Carrie said, up on his vine where he likes to greet everybody. So he is a green Aracari, which is a very small species of toucan. So a lot of people will fight and say, he's a toucan, he's a green Aracari, but you're both correct. And they get their name green Aracari from those green feathers all over him. So if you look at his back and his tail feathers, you'll see those beautiful green feathers. And these are actually a sexually dimorphic species. So that's just a fancy way of saying that the males look different than the females. So you can tell he's a male green Aracari because of the black feathers all around his head. So the females will actually have a maroon colored head. So they're a little bit different in that regard. So where do they come from? These guys are all found in the forests of anywhere in northeast South America. So Brazil, up to Venezuela, Guyana, and they're going to be hiding way up in the canopy. And even though he's very brightly colored, you can kind of see his yellow belly there. Even though they're brightly colored, because of their habitat, they're actually pretty well camouflaged because of all the bright tropical plants found in those areas. So we're going to talk about a little bit what they eat out in the wild. They're going to eat all kinds of different fruits, like palm fruits. They'll also eat some insects as well. So I brought with me some of his diets. So it might be similar to what you guys eat. Maybe not one of those things. Some blueberries, some apples, and some wax worms. So if he wants any, he'll grab some. There we go. And you see how he just eats that by throwing it to the back of his mouth like that? Very good. You want any more? So these guys can use that very long, very big serrated beak to grab onto fruits out in the wild, and then he'll just kind of toss them all the way in the back. He can also use the serration there to kind of tear at things if something's giving him a little trouble. But generally, he just throws them right to the back. Here we go. So a lot of times when you come to visit him at the zoo, you'll see him bringing some food to the glass, and that's one of the signs that he's offering something to you. So you'll see this happen with males a lot. They'll offer their females some gifts. I've gotten some blueberries shoved up my nose before, which is very thoughtful. He's a very thoughtful guy. There we go.
What's that noise he's making?
So these guys will make a variety of vocalizations. There we go.
Oh, he's trying to feed Jess.
Thank you. Thanks, buddy.
It's a real love over here.
He's a good guy. They make a variety of different vocalizations, and that'll be to communicate with others, to warn of predators in the area. There have been at least 3 distinct ones that I've heard him make. He does make like a little happy noise when you kind of give him some love. Kind of like a little squeaky noise. But he'll make that little purring noise, or he'll also make a different vocalization as well. So they have a variety of different calls that they can use to communicate with each other. So as far as predators go, these guys do have a few. When you think about where they're going to be high up in the canopy, and they have to worry about other birds swooping down to take them. So they have to worry about predatory birds. They also have to worry about snakes as well. And when they do go down to the ground, which is pretty rare, they'll have to worry about predatory cats sometimes as well. But predatory birds are probably number 1.
We're getting some really great questions, like from our friend Valerie, who's 2.5. They'd like to know a little bit more about Rico himself, maybe how old he is, how we got him, anything cool about him that we should know.
So Rico is 4 years old. He's going to be turning 5 on July 28th, so maybe some of you share birthdays with Rico. And we'll be throwing a little birthday party for him. He's turning the big 5. These guys can live around 10 to 15 years, so he's still got a long time to go. He's a little middle-aged. Rico came to us from another facility that has a variety of birds. So he was a hand-reared bird, which is why he acts a little bit different than you would see most, or some of the other birds here act. He really likes people because he was hand-reared.
Does he ever eat other animals?
Does he eat other animals? So that's good. Good question. Out in the wild, they will eat some smaller animals, some things like frogs or mice once in a while. Worms are probably the only other animal he'll eat, but he has been known to steal some eggs as well. And out in the wild, they'll kind of raid nests and steal some eggs if they feel they want to. But generally, fruits and insects are going to be the largest part of their diet.
We're having some really great questions, like our friend Haley, who's 8, wondering if he has some friends here. Does he like Sandy the Sloth? Does he have any other that live with him, or any friends?
So because he was hand-reared, he tends to like people more than he likes animals. So he is the only green arsaur we have currently. There may be plans to get him a mate, but for now, he's the only one we have. He does interact with some of the other animals in his habitat as well. He lives with a family of Bolivian gray TT monkeys, some pygmy marmosets, and a variety of different birds, but generally he prefers to hang out with his keepers.
Is there anything else he may do with his beak other than eating? Joan, who's 8, had a good question about that.
Yes, so their beaks are quite famous. So that's how you kind of know that they're a toucan, because they're famous for that very long beak. If you look into that beak, it actually is bone inside. but it's covered in layers of keratin. So kind of the same thing that makes up our hair and fingernails is the same thing that covers his bony beak. And he not only uses that as an attractive display or something to scare off predators or something to grab onto food, but one of the most important things that this beak does is actually help regulate his temperature. So how does that work? So scientists have actually used thermal scanners, so these fancy cameras that show heat on his beak. And they've noticed at different times the beak will show really hot or really cold. And they can actually control how much blood flow is going to that beak. And when they're feeling really warm, they're going to increase the blood flow and kind of let all that heat escape out of their beak. And if they're feeling cold, they can control and not put so much blood into that beak so they can keep themselves nice and warm. So that's one of the main purposes of this big, large beak. It's a really cool adaptation.
We've had a couple really great questions about maybe his behavior in terms of mating. Does he do a special dance or have a way that he may attract a mate?
So their courtship is pretty tame. A lot of times you'll see birds do these really elaborate displays, like peacocks and stuff like that will have these really elaborate shows. He does make some courtship vocalizations, and like I said, he will do those food offerings. These guys, when they lay eggs, they'll kind of steal woodpecker nests, so they'll find little empty cavities in trees, and the males will kind of excavate or clean out those nests. So that's another way of kind of attracting a mate, showing that you can keep a nice clean house and that you're gonna give her gifts. It's always a good way to attract a girl.
We've got some great questions coming in, like Tegan, who's 6, is asking more about how their flight ability. Are they good flyers? I know right now we're holding him, so it's hard to see his movements, but is he a good flyer?
So he is fully flighted, which is why I can't let him go right now. I'm not sure where he would go in the building. They can fly relatively well. They're not the most, they're not the best at flying. You can see his wings right there. Generally, they're going to hop, and they're going to stay in very small locations, so they're not traveling very far or long distances. So a lot of times you'll just see him hopping from branch to branch, but they can fly if they feel they need to.
Andrew and Aubrey have a great question about toucans and whether or not maybe they're endangered, and is he full grown?
So he is fully grown. This is as big as he's going to get. Like I said, he's one of the smaller species of toucan. There are about 40 different species of toucans, and they all live in South America, Central and South America. These guys, the green arsaris, are least concern or not currently endangered, thankfully, but their populations are declining. So they have to worry about habitat destruction, much like a lot of the animals here. So we always tell people to reduce, reuse, recycle, and kind of think about when you're purchasing items or purchasing food, where these items are coming from, and are they being made sustainably? You know, are they clearing forests for this, or are they doing it in an earth-conscious way?
Awesome. Tegan would like to know how long it takes their eggs to hatch.
So these guys will lay 2 to 4 small little white eggs, again in those tree cavities, and it takes about 16 to 19 days for these guys to incubate the eggs for them to hatch. And then once the chicks are hatched, they'll kind of hang out with mom and dad will feed them for about 6 to 8 weeks. And these guys, about 5 weeks, they'll fledge the nest, so they'll develop fully developed feathers so that they can fly.
A great question from Penny in Georgia. Obviously, he has that big beak. Is there any worries that he would bite?
So he has bitten before, and these guys have pretty powerful muscles there at the base of their beak. So if he clamps down on something, he can really clamp down pretty tight, and that's good if you're trying to pull fruit off of a tree. So they can clamp down, but typically he won't do so in an aggressive way.
All right. Luke would like to know if they are good jumpers.
So they're kind of going to depend on their flight to get, from a lower level to a higher level, but they're pretty good at hopping from branch to branch. They won't jump large distances because they could just fly, but they do hop around a lot.
Taylor, who's 10, has a really great question about their feathers. Are they born looking like that? Do they change over time?
So when they hatch out of their eggs, and you'll see this with a lot of different birds, they'll kind of have little pin feathers all over them. So they kind of look like little parrot chicks once they pop out. But over those 5 weeks, the feathers will come out of their little sheaths and they'll look more like this.
And do they live in groups or are they solitary birds?
These guys tend to live in small groups. Yeah.
I think Rico's starting to tell us he may be ready to finish his meal here. Oh, hey, buddy.
Who's that?
All right. So thank you guys so much for all your great questions. We're going to let Jess put Rico back, and then I will show you him in his exhibit. But thank you, Rico and Jess. Everyone really loved that. They had some really awesome questions. So we'll give them a chance to let him go back where he wants to be, and then we'll sign off. So hang tight.
See you guys. We're looking forward to seeing you soon.
So thank you guys so much for joining us today. We are going to be doing these virtual keeper chats every day at 11 because we really just love connecting with our community and teaching you about our wonderful animals. So be sure to check in with us. These will be posted on our page and on YouTube after the fact. Oh, the monkeys are not happy that he's back. We will be posting the full video on our page, so if you missed the beginning and you wanted to come watch the whole thing, you'll be able to do that on our YouTube channel and our page. And there's Rico, he's back home. Well, thank you guys so much. We love being able to do this with you and hope that we'll be able to have you back to the zoo soon. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.